Good morning. I'm Brian Fisher, manager of the Media Relations Division for the Prince George's County Police Department. Scams are an important issue for the Prince George's County Police Department because they affect our residents, the residents of the DMV, and our most valuable and vulnerable senior citizens. There's not a day, not one day goes by that I or members of my family do not get a call, an email, a text, a letter, a knock on the door from a scammer. Banking, online shopping, car warranty, fake police, or IRS agents saying that this is a warning that we owe money, and if it's not collected right now on the phone, there will be serious consequences, including incarceration. I want to introduce you to Lieutenant Joseph Bellino, who leads our financial crimes unit and is an expert in all of these scams. And he's going to explain today about the latest scam that has already cheated our residents out of thousands of dollars. Lieutenant Bellino.
Thank you. The Financial Crime Section of the Prince George's County Police Department is requesting the community's assistance in identifying an individual involved in a recent tech support scam. The incident occurred in June in the county, and a resident was on their computer and received a pop-up notification indicating that their computer had been compromised. The victim called the number and was then connected with 3 separate individuals who all identified themselves to be working on the victim's behalf. First was the tech support scammer, who advised her that he was working to resolve her computer and requested to remote access into her device. After gaining remote access, she was contacted with a separate scammer who represented himself as being a member of her banking institution. And then shortly thereafter, the victim was contacted with a third bad actor who represented himself as a representative of the Social Security Administration. The suspects all told the victim that her identity and her bank accounts had been compromised. The bad actor who was posing as a government official sent an email to the victim, which carries a letterhead of the Social Security Administration. That emailed letter, that document, first of all, named the victim's banking institution, stated that they were a partner with Microsoft, stated that the victim's identity theft had been reported to the Federal Trade Commission, stated that the victim was protected for losses up to $31,000 by the FDIC. This letter is unique because it shows the depths at which scammers will pair themselves to trusted government agencies like the Social Security Administration, the FTC, the FDIC, who all play a role in securing our financial assets. The letter also paired with Microsoft, the computer program or company which operated her device. The victim, who would like to remain anonymous, is of an age at which they may be in coming years receiving Social Security or is receiving Social Security now. And for this reason, the letter being addressed with the letterhead and coming from officials from the Social Security was of heightened importance. The victim was instructed to keep this information confidential. The victim then, following the guidance of what she believed to be government officials, was told to withdraw in excess of $10,000 from her banking institution and then to meet with a representative from the Social Security Administration who would then collect the funds. After withdrawing the large amount of cash from her bank, a short time later, the individual displayed in the video arrived at the victim's residence. While the victim was on the phone with the scammers, she was provided with a secret code word, which she was then to provide in confidence with the courier who was coming to retrieve the funds. You'll notice on the audio, the person of interest states a word. That word is the code word that was given by the scammers to the individual who received the funds. The person of interest is unique because of their hairstyle and because of a tattoo on their right forearm. And we're requesting the community's assistance in identifying this individual. The person of interest arrived in what we believe to be a 2001 Honda CR-V that's white. And we need this community support in identifying this individual. He stated the code word, and due to the nuances of the investigation, it's best for us not to discuss that. We want to maintain the victim's privacy. Approximately 11 months ago, in August of 2013, the Media Relations Division released a blog post to members of the community that at that time, we were seeing in the financial crime section an increase in tech support scams. At that time, we had 13 reported tech support scams with a financial loss of $287,000 to county residents. That was in August of 2023. Here in July of 2024, so far this year, we've had 22 tech support scams with an approximate loss of $500,000. The number of scams as it relates to tech supports have increased greatly, and the financial loss has approximately doubled. We also know that many times scams of this nature do not get reported to law enforcement, many times because the victims feel ashamed for the loss and how the crime is perpetrated. We urge members of the public, if they have been victimized by tech support scams, please come forward. We want to work with you in identifying these individuals. And once again, we need the community support in identifying the person here who was seen receiving this package. Thank you.
In hindsight, right, it's like, right, it seems so obvious. How did these guys convince these people? I mean, it's how do they do it? They're so good at it.
Yeah, so this, first of all, it's psychological warfare. They're trained and they are instructed to keep the victims at a heightened state of fear. So many times the victims are engaging in behavior that they wouldn't otherwise because of what they're being told by the scammers. What we believe is that many times these tech support scams are malware, or sometimes we've seen it on computer devices where you go for a Google search, and what will show up that's purchased by Google is actually the scammer's number. So when the victims are calling, either it's from malware that they put on their device, or it's from a number they're actually finding online. But when they ask to remote into your device, what we believe they're doing is looking at the browsing history of the victim. And from that, they're able to determine the banking institution just from looking at the browsing history. They then bring that information forward as if it was information that only somebody who knows them would have known. And the victims don't realize that they're viewing their browsing history. So when they come forward with information about who your private banking institution is, that gives them legitimacy. And then from that, obviously, they're then sending out letters that have the letterhead of trusted government agencies, right? They're targeting individuals based on their age and the potential that this government agency might be one that may fund their retirement future. And so they're targeting their victims, and they're using unique methods to be able to gain trust and legitimacy.
What should they do? Like for the Social Security, that's something that everyone is always thinking about. And that letter that was sent to them, it looked like it was an official letter moving on this fraudulent. What should they look out for if they receive that or if they receive that?
What I can say is, and I should make mention of this, the Social Security Administration did advise us that they're seeing an increase in scams of this nature. I'd urge you to reach out to them specifically about that, but they did advise us of that. To our knowledge, they don't send emails. They generally send letters in the mail to your address of record. And what we would state is research the letter. If you look at this letter, you'll see that it names an official who it has the name of a former Maryland governor as being the official in Woodlawn. I would just urge them to do some additional due diligence to research the letter to verify its authenticity. But to our knowledge, the Social Security Administration does not send letters of this nature out. And one other thing I want to mention, if you read the letter and you read it, you'll see that the English is not particularly good. But what we have learned is that with the advent of AI, we expect the English and to be far better in the next 24 months. So that's a separate thing for the community to understand, that at the advent of AI, right now, we believe generally these scams are being done by transnational organized, crime groups. Their English may not be particularly as good, but we'd expect with AI in the coming months that the letters are going to get better, the language is going to get better.
Those are being sent through the mail as opposed to like email.
No. So in this instance, the victim received the phone call, spoke with 3 different suspects. The final was a representative from the Social Security Administration. They then sent this letter. And this letter was drafted because of it named their banking institution. And we think the FDIC amount is an estimate. This is how much they think this victim could have in their account. So the letters are being crafted for the victim.
Was that sent like snail mail or was that like an email?
No, an email. There's an email attachment telling them, hey, you're going to receive an email from us. While they're on the phone, they receive this particular email. And this is an attachment. Yep.
Lieutenant, in Montgomery County, there's a similar scam that's happening when we accept cryptocurrencies. Victims being asked to transfer their money into gold bars. Are you looking into seeing how these scams might be connected? There's also talking about folks from India might be involved.
Yeah, I mean, we're familiar with the gold bars in Montgomery County. We don't see as much of that here in Prince George's County, but we do see a lot of cryptocurrency. That is the normal trend. We don't normally have couriers. That's why this is unique to us. But we have not seen as much gold bars as Montgomery County.
There might be a thought that these might be different wings on the same bird.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
I thought they're not looking at couriers. They made an arrest of a courier, an Asian guy from New York. Can't help but notice the similarity here.
Yeah. I mean, what?
And the pitch is exactly the same, except for the payout being gold bars versus.
I can't speak to this specific case because we need the community supports and identifying them. But what I can say is this: in recent history, we have had cases where transnational organized crime groups have had syndicates in our region, groups of individuals who come and do personal courier pickups, who are in communication with the call centers. And while we arrested some here, other states and other localities have arrested them in their region. So that's what I can state. We have seen that in other investigations.
Someone received a call. You said that this instance, someone received a call, some type of text message. Should they just not answer it, or should they not reply to the text?
Well, in this incident, the victim had a pop-up on their computer, and it stated that their computer was compromised, and then it provided them a phone number to call. And then the victim then contacted that number, and that is where they came in contact with. It wasn't a phone call coming in. It was malware on their device, a pop-up with a number to call, and then it's them contacting, trying to resolve the issue.
How do they find their victims?
I can't speak for this specific case. What I can say is that we know that information is sold on the dark web, and from what we see, some of our victims are middle age and younger, but many of them are older adults, and who are more prone to respond and answer. Maybe are retired, are in a state that they would be more apt to, look at an email or respond to a phone call.
My wife and I probably receive 3 different probes every day, right? Some sort of fishy text, some sort of fishy email. What do you do? How do you know?
Yeah, I mean, we do extensive outreach in the community. The problem is the trends are ever evolving, and that even when you learn, one way, within months or weeks, it changes. And so, I mean, the general guidance we give people is don't answer phone calls from numbers you don't know. Be cautious on dating applications. Be wary in responding to emails unless you know the individuals. But it's difficult as the population ages and the mental, capacities of older adults diminishes on all of us. We see that the targeting by these criminal groups is only going to increase. And
One more question. Was that done by the trans? You said it was trans.
I can't speak to this particular person of interest or this particular case. I'm just saying, in general, we have seen in the past cases where couriers are working with groups outside the country. This case in particular, I don't want to speak that broadly.
And Lieutenant, if you would, just go back, you were talking about the number of incidents from August of last year to July of this year.
Yeah. So we did a media release in August of 2023. At that time, we had 13 tech support scams with an approximate loss of $287,000. This year, so far as of July, late July, we have had 22 tech support scams and approximate loss. The real number is 499,000. We're saying approximately 500,000.
Just want to double check. It sounds like when they're finding their victims, some of it is because information is on the dark web, and some of it is just sort of random malware that some people are clicking, some people don't, and they just kind of cast the wide net with the malware, scoop up information, do that, kind of set this going, depending on how far some people.
Yeah, the way that we know is that we know that when they're making a phone call, they have information on their end of who they're contacting, potentially who their relatives could be, an idea of maybe the value of their home. You have to believe that all this information is out there. And so when they're making contact with their victims, they already are holding information that the victim thinks may be private.
And Lieutenant, how do you spell your last name, sir?
My last name is Bellino. It's Bell, like you ring a bell, then INO.
And Brian?
It's Joseph, Joseph. Oh, yeah. I mean, the general, guidance we always give is just don't engage in text messages that you receive from random individuals thinking they're your friend, phone calls from individuals that you frankly don't know. I mean, even these random text messages that we all receive, those are scams. That, so any type of communication in essence is opening the door, and really they want to find people who they can, maybe of diminished capacity, maybe of vulnerable situations that they can then manipulate.